Okay, on this problem, they're asking us to find the Bonshoff power distribution of the weighted voting system listed here. And they want us to give each player's power as a fraction or decimal value. Okay, so how do we do this? This is not easy. So first off, step one, we're going to list, well, here, let me write it right there. Step one, list all winning coalitions or groups. Coalition is just a group. So let's start with, so there's four players, right? We have player one, player two, player three, player four, and then we have the quota right here, 28. 28 is what it takes to pass anything in this weighted voting system. So step one then is we're going to list all winning coalitions. Let's start with a group of four. There's only one group of four. It's all four. 19, 15, 13, and 8. If you add these numbers up on your calculator, you can tell easily they're more than 28. So they are a winning group, meaning if all four members of if all four players decide to vote for something, they like something, they certainly have enough votes, more than 28, to pass the measure. So that's what we call a winning coalition, a winning group, a group that comes together, all agreeing to vote for something, and they're going to get their way. They're going to win because they have 28 or more votes. They're a winning group. Okay, next, let's list all the ones that are groups of three. Now, if you're going to do groups of three, let me help with this. This is where it gets a little tricky. If you're going to do groups of three, since there's, four players originally, if you're going to do if I'm going to pick a group of three out of four players, in fact, I'm going to pick all the different groups of three that are possible out of four players, you got to drop one out at a time, right? For example, so I'm going to drop out this 8. And that would be the group that has 19, 15, and 13. That's one possible group of three. Next, I'm going to drop out the 13, and that'll leave 19, 15, and 8. This is really tricky, and you got to be careful. Next, I'm going to drop out the 15. So I'm using a system to make sure I'm getting them all. That'll give me 19, 13, and 8. And finally, I'm going to drop out the front guy, the 19, and that'll give me the group that has 15, 13, and 8. And I know that I've got every possible group of three. That's what's really tricky about these problems, is it's so easy to make a small mistake. And if you just make one small mistake, you're going to miss the problem. So you got to be really, really careful. So do you see what I did there? How I made sure that I got every group of three. How did I make sure? Well, if you have four players and you want a group of three, that means you drop one out. So I dropped the back one out, and that was the first one. Then I dropped the second one out, and these three formed the second one. Then I dropped this guy out, and these guys made that group. And then I dropped the front one out, and these three made that group. See, I just took one at a time, dropping out the back guy, then the next guy, then the next guy, then the front guy. And each of those produced what was left over, a group of three. Now, the question is, remember, we only want winning coalitions. In fact, let me underline that for emphasis. Are these all winning coalitions? In other words, do they add up to be 28 or more? Remember, a group, if these three people get together and they're voting for something, if they all together have 28 votes or more, then they're going to win. They're going to get their way. It's called a winning coalition, a group that wins the vote. Well, if you add 19, use your calculator. You can use your calculator. for this. Definitely use your calculator. If you add these up, this is going to be more than 28. I think it's, I don't know, it's 34. It's a lot more. This is more than 28. This is more than 28. This one, see, 15 and 13 already makes 28, and the 8 more, this is like 36. So they're all more than 28. So they're all winning groups. They're all winning coalitions. Okay. Now let's go to groups of 2. How many groups of 2 is there going to be? Now, if you're going to list groups of 2, just start with the first one and do first and second. So I'll go 19. Oops, funny 19 there. 19, 15, and then go to the next one. 19, 13, and then the back one, 19, 8. Okay, and that's all the ones starting with 19. He's done. Do you see what I did there? We're not complete. Now we're going to go to the 15, and I'm going to start with the. I'll do a different color to make it more clear. I'll go to the 15. I'll go 15, 13, and 15, 8. And now the 15's done, and the last one, 13, 8. And I know I've got every group of 2. Do you see how I did that? So you might notice, well, let me go back and show you. I used a system to make sure that I didn't lose any along the way. Let's go back and take a look again. So I started with a 19, and I went right down the line. 15, 13, 18, right? 19, 15, 19, 13, 19, 8. And then the 19 was done. I had 19 in a group of 2 with everybody. So I don't need any more 19s. Then I started with the 15, and I don't need to go backwards because I've already got, 19's already done. So then I just take 15 and I just go down the line. 15, 13, 15, 8, 15, 13, 15, 8. And then 15's done. 15's been in a group with everybody. Here he is with the 19. Here he is with everybody else. He's done. So 19 and 15 are done. Now I just have 13. Go down the line. 13, 8. That's it. We got everybody. Even 8. 8's already been in a group with everybody. See him right here? In the group with everybody. So those are all the groups of 2. So I would put on my notes. You get a full sheet of notes for the exam. That when you have that you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 3. Let me just put it there. There'll always be, just so you make sure you don't miss any, on the exam. There'll always be 4 groups of 3 and 6 groups of 2. See how there's 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 3. That'll happen every time. Every time you start with 4 players, I mean. Okay, now, careful. These are not all winning coalitions. So we just list them all at first. But then we have to go back and cross out the ones that are not winning coalitions, because we only want winning coalitions. So let's start from the top. 19 and 15. What does that have to be? 34. That's 34. So that's 28 or more. They're winner. Remember, a group wins if it has 28 or more votes. How about this next one? 19, 13. What is that? That's 32. Yeah, that's 28 or more. So that's good. Next one, 19 and 8, that's 27. Oh, nope, that doesn't make 28. So out with them. They're not a winning coalition. Do you see what I did there? If you add those up, it's only 27. You only win if you have 28 or more votes, right? It takes 28 votes to pass anything in this system. So that group is not a winning group. If 19 and 8 want to vote for something, they don't have enough votes. That's only 27 votes. You need 28. So next one. 15 and 13, that's 28. So that's a winner. It's exactly what you need, just barely a winner. 15 and 8, no way. That's only 23. That's not a winner. So out with that one. It's not a winning group. Last one. That's only 21. Nope, that's not a winner. So we ended up crossing out 3 of them that were not winners. All of the groups of size 3 were winners, and half of the groups of 2 were winners. All right, so we've got all the winning groups now. All the groups of 4, there's only one group of 4, all the groups of 3 and all the groups of 2 that are winning groups, winning coalitions. Okay, now that's step 1. Step 2. Oops. 2. Circle every critical player in every winning coalition. Every winning player in every coalition. Now, what is a critical player? Let's remember what it means to be critical. You're critical if you drop out, the team loses without you. Oops. So if you drop out, then the team loses without you. So that's what it means to be critical. If you drop out, the team loses without you, right? That's somebody's critical on a sports team if they're sick or don't show up at the game and then the team loses without them. That means they were critical. They had to have that person, right? So we need to go back and find out on every one of these winning coalitions, all these, I don't care about these anymore, all the winning coalitions, which members of each of those teams is critical. Because they're making an important difference. They're exercising real power. They're critical. They have to be there for the team to win. Here we go. Start up here with the group of 4. So the 19, if the 19 drops out, start right up here. Does this team lose? No, they've got 28, 20, 30. If you add those up and you calculate, they still have 36 votes. They still win. Do you see that? If 19 drops out, the 15, 13, and 8 have 36 votes, and they still win. Remember, it takes 28, at least on mine, it takes 28 to win. So if the 19 drops out, they still win, which means the 19 is not critical. We don't need him. If he's sick on game day, it's okay. We can still win without him. He's not critical. So now if he is not critical, if the 19, at least on this team, is not critical, how could the 15 or the 13 or the 8, who are even less powerful, be critical? They couldn't be. Is that making sense? So once you, if any, well, let's say this way, if on any particular team, if on any particular team, a player is not critical, not needed, then every lower number is also not critical on that team. But that's just for that particular team. Does that make sense? So we come back up here and we say, okay, the 19, we tried, if he drops out, they're still going to win. So certainly if the 15 drops out, see, they're going to win even easier, right? They got way more than 28. If the 13 drops out, you know what I mean? If 19 can drop out and they still win, well, then certainly any of the lower guys can drop out and they still win. So nobody's critical on that team. I'm not going to circle anybody. So I'll write a note. You don't have to write a note, but just because I'm teaching this one, make it super clear. I'll write a note. No one is critical. That team's so powerful, in other words. That team is so powerful that they can still win even if one of the members drops out. Okay, next one. How about this? We've got in groups of 3. What if this 19 drops out? What do these guys have? 28, 15 and 13, 28. That's enough to win still. So the 19 is not critical. He can drop out and the team's still going to win. And if the 19's not critical, well, then the lower guys are certainly not critical either. So I'll just draw another arrow here. No one's critical. That's also a very powerful team. No one's critical. Any one of those could drop out and the team's still going to win. How about here now? Let's go. Let's drop out the 19. Can the 15 and the 8 win without him? No, they've only got 23. If you had 15 and 8, it's 23. That's not 28 or more, so they lose. So I'm going to circle. Here's our first opportunity. Let me pick a good and clear color here. I'm going to circle this 19 because he is critical. They've got to have him, right? They're a winning team if everybody shows up, but if the 19 is sick and drops out, then what's left only has 23 votes, not enough to win. So the 19 is critical on this team. They've got to have him. He's exercising real power. That's what real power is, right? If you show up, you make a difference. If you don't show up, the team loses without you. That's real power. Okay, now how about if the 15 drops out? If the 15 drops out, what do the 19 and the 8 have? Well, that adds up to 27, which is, again, not enough. They'll lose. Got to have 28. So that means the 15 is critical also. They got to have him. How about the 8? What if the 8 drops out? Says, I'm not coming today. What do they have? 34. Use your calculator if you need to. That's it. They got enough. They're fine. So they're like, it's all right, 8. You could just not show up, and we're still going to win anyway. So the 8, notice, is not critical on this team. The 19 and the 15 are. They're the stars. The 8 is not critical. If the 8 doesn't show up, they still win. They still have 34 votes. They still have enough to win. They don't need them. All right, so I'll move on. How about this team? If the 19 doesn't show up, what do they got? 21. Oh, they're going to lose. So the 19, got to have him. He's critical. Okay, how about if the 13 doesn't show up? What do they got? 19 and 8, 27. Oh, they're going to lose. They got to have 28. So 13 is critical also. And what about the 8? If the 8 doesn't show up, what do they got? That's it. 32. Oh, they're fine. They're going to win. So the 8 is not critical. He's not important. So the 8's feeling unimportant, but it's just the truth. The 8 can show up or not show up. It doesn't matter. They're still going to win. All right. How about down here? If the 15 doesn't show up, what do they got? 21. They're going to lose. So the 15 is critical. What if the 13 doesn't show up? What do they got? 23. They're going to lose. Got to have 28. So the 13 is critical. All right, here's the 8's turn again. If he doesn't show up, what do they got? 28. Oh, they're okay. Just barely, but they're okay. So again, the 3 is not critical. All right, let's go down to the groups of 2. If 19 doesn't show up, well, you got 15. Yeah, you're going to lose. So 19 is critical. What about if 15 doesn't show up? Well, they only got 19. Of course, they're going to lose. You see, on the groups of 2, they're all going to be critical. You can just save some time. They're all going to be critical. Do you see that? Right? If it's only 2 people, it's like if 19 doesn't show up, you only got 13. Or if 13 doesn't show up, you only got 19. You're going to lose, right? You need both the players. If either one doesn't show up, the team will lose. They're both critical because it's not a very strong team. You got to have both of them there. All right, so I've done step 2. I've listed now, I've circled every critical player in every winning coalition. So now we go on to step 3. Or here, I can do step 3 up here, probably best. Yeah. So I'll do step 3 right here. Step 3. Count the number of circles. And this will be the denominator. So how many circles are they? Here we go. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 circles. Okay. So that means each of these will have a 12. Well, here I can put it back over here. Each of these will have a 12 denominator. Okay. And part 1, part 2. the numerator equals the number of times for each number of times each is circled, the number of times that each is circled. So how many times, let's start with the player one. Player one, remember, is the 19. I'll put 19 here. Player one is the 19. So how many times is 19 circled? 1, 2, missing any? 3, 4. That's it, 4 times. So I'll put a 4 up here. 4 out of 12. In other words, out of the 12 times that actual power, so because these are the different times when people are important, they're critical, they're making a difference on their team. So out of the 12 times people are making a critical difference, 4 of those 12 times, it's the 19, player one, that's making that critical difference. So 12 out of the 12 times real power is exercised, a real difference is made, 4 of those 12 times, it's the 19. So he has 4/12 of the power. Does that make sense? There's only 12 times when anybody makes any real difference, which is what power really is, right? When you make a difference. And out of those 12 times, 4 of those 12 times, it's the player one who has 19 votes. It's him making that difference. So he has 4/12 of the power in this particular weighted voting system. Next comes player two, which is the 15. How many times does he? So 1, 2, 3, and 4. He has 4 also. So he is 4. And now player 3 is the 13 votes guy. So how many times is player 3? I'm so the 13 guy. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You got to be real careful. 4. Don't miss one. They're all kind of coming out the same. And then the last guy, the 8 guy with 8 votes, player 4 with 8 votes. Do you ever see the 8-vote guy circled? No, he's got a big egg. 0. He never made a difference. By the way, double check that these add up. 4, 4, 4, and 0 makes 12 out of 12, which is 1, right? That accounts for all 12. Just double check to make sure you didn't accidentally miss one. It's so easy to make a small mistake. This is a very long, tedious thing. Got to be super careful. So double check whatever your numbers are. Make sure they add up to be all 12 or whatever your denominator is. So now you can type in these numbers and the system will take it just fine. You can reduce the fractions if you want. Like, here, I'll reduce the fractions. You can divide top and bottom by 4, that'll be 1/3. This one, same thing, 1/3, 1/3. And this one, this is just 0, right? When 0's in the top of fraction, it's just 0. You can type in those reduced fractions, or if you want, you can type in a decimal. This is going to be 0.3333, forever. Same thing here, 0.3. If you divide on your calculator, 1 divided by 3, you'll get, 0.3 is forever. And this is still just 0. And so there we go. That's how we do it. So again, what are the steps? Step 1, you list all the winning groups of 4, groups of 3, groups of 2, making sure they're all hitting 28 or more. Then step 2, you circle all the people that are critical on each team, all the people making a real difference, meaning if they dropped out, the team would lose without them. So they're critical. Circle all the times people are critical. And then step 3, count all those circles. That's the denominators, all denominators. And then the numerators, that's the number of times for each circle. And so there we go.